I just didn't even make any noise there.
Yeah, I saw that. Taking a deep dive into the arts of mime and choreography.
You know, I wish that you hadn't done that, you know.
I'm sorry.
I guess I could say you're
Guilty.
we doing that thing again.
I don't know. You don't have to do it again. I'll do it. It's guilty. Give you some options.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just do all of them. That'll be funny.
Guilty.
It's adding time to my editing.
Your editing time. Sorry, future Charleton. I love you.
Get out of here for a future.
But I'm
Charleton.
guilty. So yeah, guilty. You want to give some stats on the song?
So this is actually kind of a fun history for me in particular. This actual video here might be one of the earliest, if not the earliest, recorded footage of this song.
Yeah.
So back in 2016, there was a mission trip team led by Dave Brown that came through the Midwest and actually stopped at my church. He contacted me and he was like, "Hey, can we come visit your church?" And I was like, "Heck yeah!"
Mm-hmm.
And so he came with his team, taught some of our church kids some mime. That was really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, we kind of just hung out with the team because, of course, we just had a good time. And they really wanted to show me this new song that they had been working on.
Right, because this is the team that choreographed it, right? Like
this
on
is
the mission
literally
trip.
the mission trip team that choreographed
So this
the
is
song.
like fresh out of the oven.
Yeah, we're talking like at worst, this is like a month old at this point.
Right. Which, I mean, that's pretty, like, I don't think we record much earlier than that. Because most of the time when we choreograph songs, there's kind of like that molding period where it, you do it a couple times at presentations. You're like, ooh, that didn't work. So this is fresh.
Yep. And so you can actually see in this video the background of what's going on. You'll see like a bunch of VBS stuff because VBS was going on at our church. And this song, they wrote it and they choreographed it and they wanted to show us. And I was really impressed with this song because the way it progresses is so unique.
Hey, don't spoil it. We'll get into it.
Scratch it. So yeah, I was really like, I have a personal connection to the song, even though I had nothing to do with writing it or anything. I was very honored to be one of the earliest people to ever see this and also have the earliest footage. I'm pretty sure I might actually have the earliest footage of this song being recorded.
Yep. 2016. Let's get into it.
Yep. Guilty.
Not KJ52.
It's not I'm guilty. It's very different.
Very completely different.
Yep. And so you see the VBS stuff in the background.
Submerged. I remember doing that VBS when we were in Tecate, except it was Sabiquito. Anyway.
So anyways, this story, it starts out with Daniel. So this right here is Darius with, the scribes and people who didn't really like Daniel.
Yeah. No, I do like the setup where you kind of get the illegal part first. So in storytelling, sometimes you can jump in midway through the story to convey a message more clearly or whatever point you want to emphasize. So they don't like give Daniel's whole backstory. They kind of hop in on King Darius and wanting to do this part, even though there's story before that moment. Also, nice little coordination of hands lifted. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I love when the song matches. It's about being persecuted, but it doesn't get choreographed to the lyrics. But there's key moments where it can like correspond. So either lyrics or different sound effects. It matches really well.
Yep, absolutely. And so like what I think is really interesting is like you don't necessarily know who this character is until probably this point right here where we get the lions.
The lions. I love the one-footed lions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the angel cape is necessary, but it works fine.
Yeah.
The reason I pointed out is because it's kind of distracting seeing him wear it in the background, and then you're like, oh, what's that? It's, that thing where props can grab your eyes too soon, kind of like here. Neither here nor there on the choreography.
Yep, and so then we, just fast forward into modern times.
Right.
Because we established, like, this is a pattern throughout the church.
Right. But and also you can see the same setup with the kind of the King Darius, and now the official or governmental person, like a principal here.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I like the overlaying of biblical themes in modern times.
Yep.
And it's clear.
Yep, and I really do appreciate it because, like, the way that it amps up, and we'll talk about, the second act blues, this one doesn't really have it because the way that they approach progression is so fascinating to me.
Right. So let's see how the third act goes, because it's where you have to break the mold, right?
Yep. So then we get this point right here where it's like, okay, so here you have Daniel and this newfound Christian going and confessing Christ in their own ways. And then third act gets significantly more intense. Because we're back in the school here.
Right.
And here we have a school shooter.
Right. A very, like
suddenly very intense. Basically asking, so who is saved here?
No, and that's very clear. Like, it's obvious what she's asking, and we've already had the association of it. Yeah. I might alter some of the technique here, but that's not what we're hitting on here.
Sure.
The fact that it ramps up and, like, would you do this not just through, being teased or mocked, but through death. Right. So we've done those levels.
Yep. And also this final pose right here, I think, is interesting, because instead of doing like a semicircle around Jesus, they're kind of like making Jesus the semicircle or a V shape.
It's a little V, but then also instead of this, we've done some variation with the way that their hands up. No, if anything, I think that the finale is a little bit on the finale blues instead of second act blues.
No, it's true. There's a lot of dead time and a lot of, like, it doesn't feel as if it pays off that much, but yeah.
But yeah, we'll get into it. So with that said, purpose and message of the song.
Yep. So as it is with a lot of persecution songs, it's to help people understand persecution, right, and then also to like the reality of it, and then also the hope therein. I think it especially hits home that point at the very end when it comes to like the little school shooter. Mm-hmm. We get a like real application for something that has happened in real life in our lifetimes of, people coming in saying, "Are you a Christian?" and then killing them. Yeah. It's something that literally has happened. When I was a kid, there was the whole Columbine shooting that was...
No, school shootings are only gaining in, occurrences, and it's tragic. And specifically for the ones that are targeted on religious, account. Mm-hmm. It's something that could actually happen. And so it's not just like, well, theoretically persecution might come, but like, no, it's serious.
Yep. And so this is the type of persecution that I feel like hits a lot closer to home.
It's closer for sure.
Yeah, as opposed to like what we talked about last week with the Faithful, where Faithful, once again, very strong song.
Right.
But it feels like it's a little bit, disjointed from us.
Well, and I was going to say that's like a bigger issue if that's like, when Nero tried to persecute all the Christians, the whole governmental system. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but, people go into churches and persecute Christians, and, this kind of shootings do happen. So this one, you actually, as an audience member, could place yourself in that position.
Right, exactly. Which I think is what, like, first of all, a really big point for positivity, but also that's part of the message as well. That's what people are supposed to come away with, is like, this is an imminent problem. It's not just some distant thing that, oh, this can happen, this is theoretical. It's like, no, this is happening here on our soil, and exactly. Like that's tragedy.
No, and as we've looked at this last 4 weeks, we have a kind of a wide spread of different persecution songs, right? Go focuses a lot more on how it grows the church, and kind of like, will you take the Bible? So it's more mm-hmm. message on like, will you carry this? And then we had Not Go Quietly, which was like the fun persecution song, if you could.
It's also trash.
I mean, it has what we saw, what we worked on. You can go back and watch the video. Yeah, it has some workout, but to the same end, if you're gonna do, let's say a set list with maybe the theme is around persecution, you needed 3 songs, I'd probably pick that one, and I would integrate it and work out some of the issues that we talked about.
Yeah, it's got some kinks.
Then the Faithful and Now Guilty, like we've hit on very different modes or different issues with all those kind of things, and it's amazing that it's, even though it's all in the category of persecution song, this one still fits a niche of being personal, seeing a biblical example and how we might respond in a modern context. So yep. To that purpose message, well done. Praiseworthy aspects. The purpose message is well nailed.
I feel like we've talked about that.
Yeah, exactly.
We got it. It's
check.
It's good.
Okay. Charleton had a check mark. Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that I do really like, that I've already talked on, is the way that the song progresses. Mm-hmm. So there's a thing that I usually have a struggle with on, like, when it's creation to Jesus kind of mm-hmm. songs, like Virtuoso. Even though I love Virtuoso, it struggles from hey, we're here in creation, and then suddenly there's the fall, and then suddenly Jesus.
Mary and Jesus, yeah.
We're just like, we skip 3/4 of the Bible.
Classic. Well, and it's partly because we're trying to say he's the new Adam, and so it does happen biblically, like, theologically you'd say that does happen, but there's a whole lot in the middle that needs hit on too.
Yeah. And so like when you skip a lot of content, it becomes like you have to make sure that the theme of the things that you skipped from and to make sense together. And
yes.
In this case, it really does, because this is talking about like Daniel was persecuted, like he had an actual real thing of his faith that he refused to waver on is what got him thrown into the lion's den.
Mm-hmm.
And just like that, we fast forward to today where your faith is what could get you thrown metaphorically to the lion's den, literally get you killed.
Yep.
And like that, those themes line up really well. So it's not only saying that, well, this is something that happens, but this is something that has happened.
Yeah.
And also vice versa. It doesn't just say this is something that has happened. It's saying this is something that happens, Yeah,
exactly. No, and the progression works well to that end of, again, past event, modern event, and escalating that modern event. Yeah, progression's definitely there. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't choreograph it to the lyrics, which I do love. A nitpicky thing that I have that's not against the choreography at all, but the song is, it was kind of during the God's Not Dead movement. And, and as much as I like the effort, I would say that it's not a good movie. It has good points and good principles, but it's not accurate to the situation. So I don't want to give the message of, again, we talked about it last week, being fearful or paranoid, but just saying that this is something that's real and that we could actually have to deal with. But it has nothing to do with the choreography. It's just
it's a complete.
It's Newsboys that I have a problem with.
Yeah, no, and like it's funny you bring that up, because one of my concerns with like the God's Not Dead movie, I thought it was really great. I think, once again, they bring up a lot of good points. Mm-hmm. It paints the situation in a really different light than what is happening in reality. Mm-hmm. And I also, it makes me frustrated with how then Christians often respond.
Exactly. Instead, that defensive and
more defensive and more arrogant, more, oppressive.
Right.
Even though they feel like they're the ones. I say they, even though I'm a Christian.
Right.
And they say that they're
those naughty Christians. Those Christians
don't
have my own biases and pridefulness.
Exactly. But like the point is, they tend to, instead of approach it in love, approach it with like a "you're wrong, I'm right" kind of approach. Yeah. And that just straight up misses the point entirely.
Exactly. And, you have to respond gracefully even to those who would say they disagree, and acknowledge the points where we'd be like, yeah, that is a little cheesy or bad dialogue, or that's not what we're trying to paint. Yeah. A little bit of like quid pro quo, recognizing like, yeah, that's not like the way that we should have portrayed that. But at the same time, we do feel like this is a value. I think you can hold that gracefully. Yeah. But that's nothing to do with the song.
This is a complete peripheral thing.
But all that to say is, what I do like, and why I bring the Newsboys in this, is that the lyrics are kind of going down that trajectory, and that these people put on a story to it in a really creative way, and that it worked really well for that purpose.
Yep.
So then, things you might critique on it. I as much as I like the progression, it has like 2 scenes that need fixed, and I don't know what I would do with them. Yeah. It's the bridge, where it is a trope where like the 2 people come out, and you had main 1, main 2, and now they bow to Jesus, and that's kind of it. What I do like is that it kind of matches the end, where like those 2 people bow and then everyone bows, so it has some symmetry to that, but it feels fillery rather than like the point of like they're being persecuted, and the person willing to give up their life should then show like, oh, the eternal glory and security that we have with Christ, or I don't know, something to that end that needs connected for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like those are probably my biggest concerns for choreography as well, especially the end. It does feel like it lingers a little bit longer than it probably should. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there should be a bit more of a strong home run kind of ending to when the third person gets killed. Like, if it feels like there should be something more to kind of add to that. It's like, you did it. Like, even though this is the tragic end, this is also okay.
The irony of the tragedy, kind of that kind of ending. Because maybe the way it's portrayed now is like the person gets shot and then they get picked up right away by Jesus. But maybe some gravity to the situation, some dramatic timing where you don't just pick them up right away, but God comes down and, kind of maybe like a Stephen moment, like picks them up. Something to that end to show that this person was willing to give all for me. And that's significant of that.
Yeah, or something that I was kind of just playing around with is like in that scene. I think what maybe gets me is like the person gets pulled out, shot, and everybody else just kind of vanishes to 00.
Yeah.
I feel like if there was kind of a moment where, like, I don't know, if you did this in slow motion or something, she gets pulled out, everyone else like is terrified, starts running away, and maybe there's like one person who's kind of watching. The person gets shot, and they, you know, come back maybe to pick up the body and be like, I think I get it or something.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a Bible or something. They pick up the Bible.
The classic guard becomes a Christian or the persecutor.
Well, it wouldn't be the persecutor. It would be somebody else.
Somebody else. Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
It would fit to that. That would be a better trope.
Yeah. And so then, you know, the shooter, you know, runs off somewhere else, goes into 00. Everybody else is in 00. Then you get the friend who's not saved comes up and is like, wow, she really meant it. This really meant a lot.
In the scene, what you see is the friend, you know, raising her hand as well, and then she doesn't get killed, which has a little disjointedness to me. But so maybe they don't like they're about to raise their hand and then they don't, and
something
then
like that. Yeah,
something to that could add some drama to the situation here.
Right.
You could even flip it where the person that she was witnessing to raises her hand, but then the person initially doesn't. You know, like add some drama or something to that effect. I don't know.
Yeah,
you got options there.
Yeah,
that would be what I would fix, and then it would also fill some of that ending time a little better.
Yeah, because the time that you have to bow, I feel like if you had half the time, it would still get the same cool dramatic effect at the end.
Exactly.
So you totally eat up some of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then theologically, I think we've kind of hit it on the persecution songs already, but the growing of the church through persecution and to the glory of God, it hits on those themes well. I don't really have much to add to that.
Well, that's pretty much it. Yeah, but we've talked about it in The Faithful. We talked about it here already throughout our discussion. It's all about persecution, the hope that we have.
Exactly.
Cool.
So in that case, we have clarity, difficulty, and style.
Call this gun clarity, difficulty, and style.
Just dabbed on that.
Anyways.
I was gonna start stage punching you, but we didn't practice that. Remember we talked about that before.
Yeah, you need to communicate.
You need to communicate ahead of time. I wasn't gonna actually punch Charleton.
Or were you?
He wants me to. Like how I didn't even look. That was good. Anyway. All right. Toot my own horn a little bit. All right, clarity. It's dang clear. Like as much as I want to fix it, like I don't. And it's not an easy storyline. Like it is not just like, oh, it's Daniel. Oh, wait, there's a modern parallelism here. It's really clear.
Yeah, I feel like the only points that I would take off, which is it feels deliberate, is the fact that you don't know it's Daniel for like the first half of the first scene.
Right, but that's totally fine.
But it feels like it was on purpose, though. Right, so because you interrupt the story, or I guess you start.
Yeah, no, it's a trope where you start in the middle of a story and telling it, and then they go, oh, this is Daniel. Now, granted, if you don't know Daniel already, you might not catch all those details. But at the same time, if I'm, casual observer and somehow they're presenting this to somebody who's in a Christian audience that doesn't know Daniel, because again, we're not going to do this for non-Christians.
Yeah, this is Christian audience.
Right? So say somehow they don't know, you're still going to get the, oh, he wasn't supposed to pray and now he's going to, you're going to get that.
You get it.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you're going to probably get that it was a divine Bible story at some point.
Yep.
I mean, maybe you need somebody who opens the Bible and reads it and then watches, but I don't know. We're not going to do the trope of the pop-up story book.
There's little itty-bitty things that you could do to make things a little bit more clear, but by and large, I think it is fine.
It hits every mark for me, and I wouldn't add that because it would tank the style.
Right. Oh yeah. It would gain like 1 point for clarity and lose like 3 for style.
Yeah, it would not be proportionate. So, though I would, like we talked about, I would change some things in the storyline and would make it, but it's a difficult story that makes sense. I think I'm going to give this a 10. It's a 10 for me. Yeah.
Wow, man.
You understand? I had not watched this in a long time when we watched it live, and I'm like, oh, yeah. So totally got it. No problems.
Yeah, no, I was looking at like an 8 or a 9, 8 minimum, because like I can't give it lower than that. It is so clear that like even if you don't understand anything
a blind
about
person
the
can understand this.
A blind person can.
That's an 11. Okay.
How would you write a mime song that you can cover?
The literal anti-medium.
Oh man, that's like doing a mime without music or doing music without mime.
Yeah, playing music for a deaf person.
That's just literally playing music.
Anyway, yeah, it wouldn't work.
No, so you do the mime, but you're like constantly holding the person.
Oh, so tactile mime.
So it's like a tactile mime, you know.
That's interesting. Or you do it in a way where, like, you know, when people translate for blind people, it's like the person is now miming a wall.
You got the description service. Anyway, so I think I'm gonna go with a 9. I'd like to, because, you know, I gotta give it the credit where credit's due.
Yep.
It's a strong, clear song.
Like I said, there's things that we might alter, but it wouldn't be to add clarity. Like, it'd be to add style and some storyline stuff. Which, all that to say, difficulty, it's not that difficult.
Yeah, it's like moderate in difficulty.
Right, because it's not tied to lyrics. Some of those lyrical cues you do have to hit, you know, him raising his hands and getting to a certain place. And that can be difficult for people, because instead of saying, on this beat you do this, and then in 4 beats you do that, and 4 beats you do that, it's kind of like, well, by the end of the course, you need to be here. And that has a lot more elasticity, which is a little harder by its nature.
Yeah, sure. You got a little bit of like improv that you can do to make the characters make more sense and make things feel better, but ultimately it's not bad.
But it does mean that when I teach the part, I can't just say do this, then this, and this. I have to be like, oh, you're late. Oh, now you're early. Like, it's going to be difficult to teach.
Yeah, it's not difficult to learn. It's difficult to teach.
And that's, I feel like, partly the metric that we're marking here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it a 5, just because those kinds of story-driven things are the difficult part. But there's no backflips, no flags, no, like, thing that's going to be uniquely difficult.
Yeah.
It's pretty standard mime stuff.
Right. I feel like there are a few points that the technique needs to be clear for things to make a bit more sense.
It is a little funny to me, the Karate Kid line technique. It's interesting because I do think it's better than them having both feet on the ground, but it's really hard to mime a lion. So I don't know what I would do to alter it. But
you give everybody lion
like
masks.
Actual, yeah, okay.
No.
Team Branson just adding more props.
Okay.
Yeah. I say that as if we never used ridiculous animal props. But
No,
you never did Yahweh, did you?
No.
We had like 4 or 5 like actual lion head props. And one was a lemur, one was an elephant that literally there's video of it somewhere. Charleton will find it for you.
No,
but it's like, as I say that as if we've never done crazy, ridiculous props like that. All I'm saying is I'm not going to do it again. When we were offered those props, I'm like, we can't do it. We're not doing
burn them. No.
Yeah. Sadly, no, we didn't burn them.
No, and like, so for that, I'd probably give this song, like, I'm thinking of like a 6, because there are certain technical aspects that need to be hit. Like, I think, you know, in this version particularly, not criticizing anybody, but like the gunshot at the very end felt very soft.
Yeah.
Like, it could have been significantly more intense, which was like a huge
pinnacle moment. Yeah.
It was like the crescendo of this moment that you needed things to like look really perfect, and it felt really soft and like lost a bit of its flair.
Right.
But that's like more of a technical issue.
I might change some of the technique of how you show that. And again, we talked about the gravity of making that significant.
Yeah.
So a little bit of it, but
overall. But overall, like, easy song probably to learn. Like, there was nothing that was like, okay, so you need to, like, you know, put your left leg behind your head and do a triple backflip. You know?
Exactly.
That's
at the same time. One leg, a triple backflip.
Yes.
Dang. Yeah. That's some style. Speaking of style, it doesn't break any crazy bounds, but it nails it. Like, as far as
nails it, like Jesus was nailed to the. Anyway.
Oh. But no, it hits the hammer on the indescript head of a nail. No way. Where the foreshadowing, or like the typological thing of like Daniel to modern day to building up, works so well. I have to give some style to that. But there's nothing else that's like, we've done stories where it's like Bible times and modern. So that doesn't break bounds. It just nails it really well. And it hits the mark of getting it close to us, of like, this could happen to us. So I'm debating. I think I'm going to give it a 6. I think there's some other things that you could do. Like we talked about the lion technique, or some little things that would make it like pop that much more, but it's there and it nails it well. So I'm going to give it 6.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at it, I feel like the things that it breaks bounds on, you know, the things that are unique about this song, it really comes down to how it presents persecution. Because it's really easy, I feel like, to just say persecution happens, here's what persecution looks like.
Yeah.
But I feel like the fact that it reaches out to the audience and makes it imminent,
yeah,
I feel like that's the part where it has the biggest style. Because like, every other persecution song that we've done, for Go maybe being the only exception, at the very end it starts reaching out to, are you going to take the Bible?
Yeah. But it also doesn't feel as much like a persecution song, even though it's totally in there, like Stephen and whatnot. Yeah.
And so like this one, by reaching out to the audience and like grabbing them by the heart, I feel like is what gets the extra points for me.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
That's why I'm going to go, even with that being said, I feel like I'm still going to give it like a 7.
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, it isn't really breaking any other bounds on like technique or storyline or stuff like that. Not that this is a bad song. No, I think this is great.
Song. 10 clarity for me. Like, I'm going to propose we do this in the future. Whenever we need our next persecution song, we should learn this one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. Could use a little bit of polish here and there, but by and large, awesome.
Awesome. Tell us what you think down in the comments. If you want to confess any of your sins and say that I'm guilty of this, or I've jaywalked, or, you can just be guilty down there too. We're all guilty. Are they guilty of matching the like scribe? Well, I hope so.
Yeah, you'd better be guilty of mashing that like scribe.
Oh.
Such a good friend to me, and just so happy you're here. Just so good to be here with you.
Breaking the line.
Do you feel persecuted? No. End it. Get out of here.
I'm Samuel.
And I'm Charleton.
Breaking the line.